I'm shocked at how strange New World Season 3's premiere was Scotty's real Star Trek origin. When Star Trek Strange New World Season 3 premiered, most fans expected another pulse-pounding episode featuring Captain Pike and the Gorn War that's been brewing since Season 2's cliffhanger. What we didn't expect was that the episode would quietly deliver something even more momentous: the true Star Trek origin story of Montgomery Scotty Scott. Yes, we've seen Scotty before. Technically, his younger self showed up in the Season 2 finale, played brilliantly by Martin Quinn. But the Season 3 premiere transforms that cameo into a full-fledged turning point, turning Scotty from a promising young engineer into the man destined to become the miracle worker of the USS Enterprise. It's not just a fan-pleasing Easter egg. It's a carefully constructed origin story that ties Scotty's earliest experiences to the legend he becomes in Star Trek, the original series. And in doing so, Strange New Worlds may have given us the most emotionally grounded and thematically rich origin story any legacy Star Trek character has ever received. The lost engineer finally found his place. When we last saw Scotty in the Season 2 finale, he was a survivor of a destroyed Federation ship trapped behind enemy lines during the escalating Gorn conflict. His introduction was a clever mix of comedy and tension. He improvised his way out of disaster using jury-rigged tech and sheer ingenuity. But that version of Scotty was still raw, even shell-shocked. The Season 3 premiere picks up that thread directly. The cold open shows Scotty working frantically aboard a battered shuttle, trying to stabilize its life support with little more than a screwdriver and willpower. He's exhausted, stubborn, and brilliant, all the things we love about Scotty, but he's also angry. He blames Starfleet Command for sending him on a doomed mission, and he's not yet the officer who proudly declares, "I can't change the laws of physics." Pike finds him this way, out of place, disillusioned, and not yet aware of what he's truly capable of. Their first conversation is telling. Pike asks him why he didn't abandon ship when it was clear the mission had failed. Scotty replies, "Because I built her." You don't abandon your ship, even if she's falling apart. That line says everything about his character, and Strange New Worlds makes it the foundation of his legend. This moment, small as it is, feels like the real start of Montgomery Scott's Star Trek journey. It's where he learns that survival isn't just about being clever with engines. It's about loyalty, persistence, and never giving up on your crew or your ship, no matter the odds. From comic relief to emotional core, what makes Strange New Worlds' treatment of Scotty so effective is that it avoids making him a caricature of his future self. We don't get endless, "I'm giving her all she's got" jokes or wink references to dilithium. Instead, the episode grounds him in the trauma of survival and the spark of discovery. The script uses humor sparingly but effectively. When Scotty first meets Pelia, the brilliant and eccentric engineer introduced in Season 2, their banter crackles instantly. Pelia teases him for his improvised engineering methods, while Scotty fires back, "Improvised? I call it inspired." Their chemistry is undeniable, and it's through her mentorship that Scotty begins to evolve. Pelia sees in him what Starfleet has overlooked, an intuitive genius who solves problems not by following the book, but by rewriting it. The Season 3 premiere uses this dynamic to highlight one of Star Trek's oldest and most cherished themes: the balance between order and improvisation, between science and art. Scotty becomes the living embodiment of that balance. By the episode's midpoint, Pelia has quietly begun grooming him for something greater. She calls him the kind of engineer who could run an engine room someday. To longtime fans, that line hits like a warp core explosion. It's a quiet but deliberate setup for Scotty's eventual destiny aboard the Enterprise under Captain Kirk, a character defined by crisis. The genius of making Scotty's origin story unfold during a Gorn crisis is that it mirrors the conditions that will define him for decades. From the original series through the next generation, Scotty is always at his best when things are falling apart, when the engines are failing, the shields are flickering, and everyone else has given up hope. In the Season 3 premiere, the Gorn attack gives him that first trial by fire. The Enterprise crew finds themselves stranded near the edge of Federation space, with multiple systems offline and the Gorn closing in. Pelia and Scotty must improvise a warp jump using damaged coils and a power converter from a shuttlecraft. The sequence is pure Star Trek magic, both tense and exhilarating. Scotty suggests a maneuver so risky it borders on suicidal. Pike hesitates. Pelia backs Scotty's plan. "Sometimes," she says, "the only way out is through." Pike gives the order, and Scotty performs what's essentially his first ever miracle fix, saving the ship and earning the awe of the entire crew. That moment, the mix of terror, ingenuity, and triumph, is what Star Trek is all about. It's not just spectacle, it's a baptism by plasma fire. For Scotty, it's the moment he becomes who he's meant to be. When the ship finally stabilizes, Pike tells him, "You just saved over 400 lives, Lieutenant." Scotty, in typical fashion, shrugs and replies, well, she barely held together, Captain. I told you the coils couldn't take that kind of stress." The crew laughs, the tension breaks, and in that instant, Scotty is home, reframing Star Trek legacy. What Strange New Worlds does so well here is retrofit legacy through character emotion rather than nostalgia. Many prequels rely on surface-level fan service, catchphrases, props, or costumes, but this episode gives Scotty emotional texture. It makes his later quirks make sense. Why does Scotty always understate his repair times? Because he learned early that hope and realism need to coexist. Why does he talk to the Enterprise like she's alive? Because for him, ships are living things, vessels that mirror the people who care for them. There's even a subtle callback to his famous line from Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock, where he says, "The more they overthink the plumbing, the easier it is to stop up the drain." In the Strange New Worlds premiere, Pelia chastises him for over-engineering a system, and he laughs, sometimes simpler's better." It's a small, almost throwaway line, but it feels like watching the birth of a philosophy. This kind of character layering is why Strange New Worlds has become such a standout in modern Star Trek. It doesn't just resurrect legacy characters, it enriches them. It gives them arcs that make their later lives feel inevitable yet newly profound. Scotty and the spirit of Star Trek. Scotty's origin in this episode is more than just a personal journey. It's a thematic statement about what Star Trek really stands for. In an era where science fiction often leans on darkness or cynicism, Strange New Worlds doubles down on optimism through characters like Scotty. Here's a man who sees destruction and responds not with despair, but with invention. He turns chaos into opportunity. He doesn't need advanced AI or impossible technology. He relies on imagination, intuition, and human spirit. That's the essence of Gene Roddenberry's vision, the belief that ingenuity and compassion are humanity's greatest tools for survival. By making Scotty's debut central to the Season 3 premiere, Strange New Worlds reminds us that Star Trek has always been about people, not just phasers or warp drives. It's about what individuals bring to the future, about how we build, adapt, and dream our way through crisis. A torch passed, not just relit. Martin Quinn's performance seals the deal. He doesn't mimic James Doohan's iconic portrayal. Instead, he channels its spirit. His Scotty is a young man still finding his footing, but the twinkle in his eye, the rhythm in his voice, and the sheer love for engineering all point toward the legend we know. The episode ends perfectly. After the crisis is over, Scotty stands on the observation deck, gazing out at the stars. Pike joins him, offering him a permanent posting aboard the Enterprise. Scotty hesitates. He still feels unworthy, but Pelia encourages him.